Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I am doing the tutorial of how I built my PC with an RTX 3090 and Ryzen 9 3900 XT. May I please just ask you to subscribe because I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of this month, and that is in 10 days. So right now I'm going to tell you guys the parts. This is the CPU. This is the RAM, the AIO, the power supply, the SSD, the case, the motherboard, and the GPU. So I started by taking the motherboard out of its box and putting it on the box because the box is static proof, so I wouldn't have to worry about breaking the motherboard with static.
You just do.
I just put in the processor.
This is where I put in the CPU. This is like the brain of the computer. It does all the calculations and computations. Here I'm just checking that it's in securely because this is one of the most fragile parts, and obviously your computer won't work if you don't have a central processing unit. After putting in the CPU and checking that it was secure, I went to put in the RAM, which is random access memory. This is your memory that is still being used. This is before it gets put onto your SSD, and this stores everything that is being accessed while you're using your computer. This is the part where I put in the AIO, or all-in-one liquid cooler. Most AIO coolers work very similarly to a car radiator. There's warm liquid that goes up to the radiator, which is cooled by the fans. Then that cool liquid goes down to the processor, and it goes down to the processor through these tubes, and it hits this pump right here, which obviously pumps it, and then that liquid is pumped back up through the tubes into the radiator to be cooled, and the cycle repeats. Mine works that way, with the exception that the pump is in the radiator. That way the water block can be a lot smaller and, in my opinion, better. So now I had started to put things in the case.
Well, we were using the wrong screw for a good 45 minutes, but I found out the right screw, and so now I'm screwing in the motherboard standoffs. That way I can flip the case up with the motherboard in it without the motherboard falling out and dealing damage.
As I said in the clip, I'm screwing everything into the case right now, and this is starting with the motherboard, which has all the components on it communicate with each other. I'm screwing that into the case. So after I had put everything from the motherboard into the case, I then started plugging in my cables into where they needed to go. Since this was my first time, I was making sure that everything was plugged in more than making sure that it looked good. But regardless, I did spend a very long time doing both of those things. But I'm going to skip over most of that because it's just not very entertaining to watch. So we're going to get to me almost being done and almost ready to turn on. So I unfortunately did not record when I put in the graphics card, but the graphics card is what does all your graphics computations.
So this is the moment of truth. I'm going to put this cable into the power strip, and then we will see. Does it turn on?
So this is where I plugged it in to the power strip, and
It will turn on. But it's getting close. Once I press the button, it should turn on. 3, 2, 1.
yep, as you could tell, it didn't turn on the first time. So of course I'm gonna go troubleshoot and figure out what's wrong.
Alright, so we figured out what was happening in the last clip when it didn't turn on. I just did not have the power strip on.
Yep, that's right. The reason it didn't turn on is because I had the power strip off.
Yeah. Anyways, so now we're gonna be actually turning it on and testing. Flicking this switch. Now, up. The motherboard lit up. Now, time to turn on.
Whoa! Look at that beauty. Wow.
So yep, it turned on.
So you guys did not know, but the thing I was slightly worried about was that the AIO might not be spinning because I did not know if I had daisy chained the cables correctly, but if you go under, you can clearly see that the AIO is spinning and it's lit up. I also want,
As I just said in the clip, it was spinning, but it actually was still wrong, and I'll explain.
I also wanted it lit up.
So what was wrong was that not all of the fans were spinning. In fact, I'm pretty sure only the one that I showed was spinning. So I believed that it was working right, but in reality it was not working, and only one of them was spinning, which was not enough to get rid of all the heat, and eventually, slowly, the CPU would overheat.
American Megatrend. That's the BIOS?
That's the BIOS?
Yes, we're about to enter BIOS.
Basic Input Operating System.
And since it didn't overheat for a good 5 minutes, I was able to go into BIOS and look at things. And then when it did get close to overheating, the computer would just turn itself off, and then I'd just turn it back on after a little bit. I eventually figured out that it was wrong, and then I went to fix it. I then moved it to the desk where I'd be having my setup and got ready to turn it on again.
And now I have it plugged in. It's time for the moment of truth. Oh, it works again!
I had already installed Windows, so it was time to start installing stuff.
So, I'm just downloading my software and just look at it. It's beautiful.
I installed my browsers, and then I got to installing my games. And this is what that looked like. Notice the 1185 FPS in the corner. So finally, after building my computer, it was time for me to bring in the rest of my stuff. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of this montage type video, then my video called First PC Build RTX 3090 has way more of this. It's about 7 minutes long, so go watch that. Also, I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of March, and when this video gets uploaded, that's only 10 days. So please, please, please subscribe, and thank you so much.